I love the feeling of cohesiveness and the feeling of love. I love the people here, how they treat each other, how they, there's more laughter here than most people get in a week. We're bringing something that most people wish they had. A feeling of love and care that we're sharing with each other. Some people aren't willing to do that. They always want to be up here. No, we're getting together as a family and we're sharing things that you just can't buy. I love it. You know, if you were to call me tomorrow and say we're having another party, I'd be there.
No, answer.
No.
That was good.
I've loved you from the time you were a baby. She knows it too because you do. You know it in your heart how I feel about you.
We love each other.
Yes, we do. We love each other. We don't go around bragging about it, but we just do love each other and care for each other. And I do it with all my grandchildren and my wife. It's the truth. You know that. I am so enamored with my wife and my grandchildren. I wouldn't trade her in for all the money in the world.
Yeah, sing it the way you used to sing it. No, you know the words are
The black.
Ready? Now you can sing it the right way.
Here we go, I'll help you.
And when we are married, how happy I've been.
Because I love Roseanne. Oh,
'Cause I love
Roseanne.
Oh, and Roseanne loves me.
Side, west side, all
Around the clock. The race is on.
At the end, I'm going to ask you one question you would ask him, and then his interview at the end is going to be just 7 questions from you guys.
That's great.
So I just wanted to tell you, first, so you can think about it a little bit if you want, or process.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a beautiful idea.
I hope it works out well.
The Costello family.
Is that fun? Yeah. They have a good group. What are you going to do?
To Jack from Barack Obama. I think that's your dad, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. It's my dad.
And this is...
You?
I don't know who that is.
Is that Aunt Roseanne? Yeah.
Oh, it's Roseanne. You're right.
I want to win the trip.
Yeah, do you know who that is?
No.
Quinley.
Quinley? Okay.
Is that here?
Yeah. Yeah, we're hunting. We're out.
Patrick, he's got attitude.
What?
What are you doing?
It's,
I would hope so.
this is when one of the babies was born. I'm not sure.
You guys remember
Mom will
the house?
probably know.
Yeah.
Lost?
No, I think he likes it up here. Is that Dollar
Roseanne, do you remember? Do you remember who this?
You're in the Chipotle. They're all the same.
All right.
It doesn't really matter. So how's the work with Danny? What are you doing?
It's good.
Did you win? Well, now
So
you
I
really
don't know where
stepped
you
it up.
guys
You
are
went
gonna
from hanging
sleep.
out
You're gonna have to.
We're just staying for a day.
You really
Oh,
We're not gonna stay over. Do you wish we could?
really,
yeah,
I
I do.
don't know how you're gonna.
Grace has school tomorrow.
Who does?
Grace.
Well, you know, she could just call in sick.
She could. Yeah, go tell her.
Oh my
So
gosh.
she have to do to stay overnight and that, is just call in sick tomorrow. Yeah, but
No,
no, call
she's
in
not-
sick to
Jack,
school or,
what school is she in? Hinsdale Central?
I don't know.
Her.
I thought she was working for Danny.
She is.
You're good friends with Barack Obama?
Yeah, I was.
You ate with him?
Yeah, here. Look, here's another picture. He did all this.
To Mr. Costello, on behalf of First Lady Michelle and myself, thank you for your leadership and support.
I took him off relief. I took almost 200 people where they were getting and put them into full-time union jobs.
Who are you?
Well, do you want the long answer?
Who am I? Here comes the waterworks.
Oh my god!
No,
For what, like 15 seconds in?
exactly.
My name is David. I am the third son and brother of Jack Costello's children.
My name is Bill Costello. I'm Jack Costello's son. I'm the fourth son out of 5.
I am Dan Costello. I am the youngest of 7 of Jack's kids.
John Joseph Costello Jr.
I am more than all of these things, but I think in the context of this, I'm the oldest of 7 kids that were born to my parents, Jack and Roseanne Costello. And in some ways, I am pieces of both of them. And in some ways, I am entirely different.
Great question. Who is Jack Costello?
Jack Costello is my father. We're going to call him Jack.
Well, Jack Costello is my dad.
Well, he's my dad. I'll start there.
So he's senior. He's John Joseph Costello the first, and he's a pretty good guy.
First and foremost, he's my father. Beyond that, he's a lot of things to a lot of different people, including in the community, the places he volunteers, his family, obviously all of his grandkids and children.
He's also probably kind of inherently one of the most others-centered people I've ever met. He has always been marked by doing the right thing out of love for or respect for somebody else, and just generous, literally to a fault. just would give anything.
He's a really genuine person. He's liked by a lot of people.
Beyond all of the kind of lists that you would put together as far as describing him, he's an example of a person that I think a lot of people would want to model themselves after.
When they named me after my dad, from what I've heard, is there was lots of discussions around it. Because in an Italian household, you're supposed to name your son after the mother's father. And I think there was probably some discussion around it, and my dad was pretty firm that he wanted to name me after him. Yeah, so I think it's interesting that he named me after him, and I'm a lot like him. I didn't really think about having my dad's name until later on in life, and that was really probably when we started working for my dad, and and then into high school, and then after that, then I really thought that having his name was kind of a blessing.
My dad worked a lot when I was young. He was silly when he was rested, but most of the day hours he was sleeping. He was typically kind of mussed up, like his hair would be sticking up, and he'd usually just woken up or something to join us with for dinner.
It's funny because I was one of the younger kids. My dad was kind of goofier, I think, towards the younger kids and stricter towards the older kids. I think he got a little sillier when it was less pressure with only a few kids and not so much pressure with 7 kids at one time.
So he was working really hard. He was usually not with us because he was working nights and sleeping days. So what would tend to happen is he would sleep. He'd come home. We had to be quiet, so let's say when we weren't school age or if it was summer, we had to be quiet. We had to be out of the house because he was sleeping. My mom would put the baby, whoever the baby was at the time, she'd put him in bed with my dad because he was sleeping. So that was somebody who could watch the napping child kind of thing or help the child sleep. And then we had to go play in the yard or we had to, go do something. If I really kind of think back on it, I feel like he was frustrated a bit and just probably working too hard. Probably felt enormous pressure. Think about feeding 7 children, in your like early 30s. Like, that's crazy. He grew up in a household that a good parent was marked by how stringently you disciplined your children. And so he thought, as a good dad, he needed to be really strict with us, and that involved, spanking and, hitting us with a belt. And I really honestly think that he thought he had to do that and he didn't appreciate having to do it. But it made for kind of some bad dynamics, kind of early childhood, where, it would be, he was frustrated, my mom was frustrated, the kids were, climbing the roof, and, there was this disciplining element that was kind of like, if you got caught, you got spanked. And so you tried not to get caught, and it kind of was more chaotic.
As a real little kid, he was strict, and he was the type of person that, there was the disciplinarian of the family, and I think later on in life he felt bad about some of the things as far as being so strict.
I will tell you though, and part of why I tell kind of that part that maybe isn't so glamorous for him is, years later, my dad is still working downtown and he asked to meet me for lunch at like 2 o'clock or something like that. So we go across the street to have lunch, and he basically says, I wanted to meet with you because I want to apologize. He says, I want to ask your forgiveness for, and he listed a number of things that he had thought through, where he had the benefit of hindsight to say, like, I didn't do good on those. And then he also apologized for things he didn't do to me, but he did to some of my brothers, like put John in a situation where he made him fire somebody at work, you know, like things like that. So I think there's, you know, what I love about the story is that he grew over time, right? He evolved, he matured, you know. So those early years, I think he grew beyond those into this bigger, more beautiful person. I think the difference between me and Dan is 12 years. And there's kind of a break, I think. Your dad, David, is probably like that transition point. And the difference primarily, I think, has to do with working at the news agency.
When I normally tell people when they ask me, you know, like, hey, what'd your dad do? He was a newspaper boy, and then he ended up buying the newspaper agency. And back in the day, the Tribune would let folks distribute the newspaper. So they didn't own distribution. So there was newspaper agencies, and my dad had one in Forest Park. And what he would do was on the weekends, rather than having all the newspaper boys come in, he'd have my older brother Johnny, my brother Michael, my sister Karen, the oldest, and me, and then also Billy. And we would go to deliver newspapers on the weekends with him.
You know, it involved getting up at like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, and then delivering newspapers in bitter cold often. And then we would come home and we'd sleep, and then we'd often have to get up and go to swim practice or something like that.
I think I started when I was probably like 7 or 8, and did that till I was a senior in high school when he sold the newspaper agency back to the Tribune. But he also owned some other stores. He ended up buying where the newspaper agency was in the back, and the front was a Hallmark store, and he ended up buying the Hallmark store too.
So our years, you're like around the age of 10, were marked pretty early by having to work and by having sort of this obligation to the family that was more than chores. You know, it was a job. The younger kids didn't have that as much. I think Billy did some of that, but I don't think Dan or Roseanne had to at all. And so I think because life had gotten a little bit better, things were a little bit more manageable, my mom went back to work, their experience was totally different than ours. My mom stayed home when I was young. Their mom worked. I went into the news agency in the middle of the night on weekends, and then when I could drive, I worked in the card store. They didn't do those things. So just different experiences.
Yeah, starting work, you know, when I was 9 years old and 3 o'clock in the morning, and I got to see what he got to do, right? I mean, kind of a warped thing at 9 years old, and you're excited that you're with your dad seeing what he does, but it was a crazy job, and it was some crazy people that he was around, and I really respected him. I never really looked back and said, boy, those were tough times, and I got cheated out of childhood, and some things that I probably could have said. But for me, it was, you know, being with my dad, and I never was angry about it. You know, what kid has a chance to spend that much time with their dad, right? Yeah, there's some moments within there where, you know, he and I didn't get along. I think as I got older, I kind of thought that maybe this isn't as fair. I think the only time that we really ever disagreed on something is my parents went away to, they took a trip for their anniversary. They went to Hawaii, and I don't know if I was a sophomore or junior in high school, and my dad said, look, you know, you're in charge while I'm gone, and he's like, you won't have to show up during the week, but, you know, like if somebody doesn't show up, they're going to call the house, you've got to pick up, and you may have to drive into Forest Park. So it was like during the week, I got the phone call at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I answer, and I got to go in. So I drive into Forest Park, and one of the guys that worked for my dad didn't show up, and I'm calling him, and I'm calling him, and I'm calling him, and finally he shows up, and he was drunk. And like I said, I'm 16 or 17 years old, and I said to the guy, I said, "You're fired." And I said, "Don't come to work." So the rest of the week, I had to take over his routes and go to school. So I'm in class and falling asleep. And so my parents come back, and I told my dad the story, and he hired the guy back. And so there was a couple of moments there where we were at each other, and I just couldn't understand. I was like, wait, I mean, this is right and wrong. I mean, he was wrong. Why did you hire him back? Later in life, you understand that there's more to the circumstances. I was like this young kid of like, no, drinking is wrong, right? To drive is wrong. To come to work and throw up is wrong. You're fired. You're done. But my dad had compassion. I mean, the newspaper agency, the people that he hired weren't like the brightest or the smartest. I mean, a lot of them had serious problems and issues, and I don't know if it was something where he just couldn't hire better people, or if he kind of had that compassion in his heart. You know, I think it was probably a function of both.
When the moon hits the sky like a big piece of pie, that's amore.
You can see his tonsils.
Well, you know that song.
I do. It's a very famous song.
How about Take Me Out to the Ball Game?
He's really
Me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jacks. Cracker jacks. I don't care if I ever come back, for it's boom, boom, boom for the whole team. If they don't win, it's a shame, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. I love you, a bushel and a peck, and a hug around the neck. All this is up in here. I was saying, I went to this where I had my flu shot taken and everything. I was talking to this woman, Alzheimer's, which I had, and she said that some people grow sharper with Alzheimer's.
I hate this disease that you have.
Alzheimer's.
I feel like all of us are robbed of your love, in your mind, in your spirit, and who you were.
Still there, Dave. Still love you.
I feel like
It's not about me, it's about all of you together. You're one magnificent thing together. We're all better because of each other. You know, I've learned things from Karen and from Johnny and from my wife and everybody. We learn things if we're willing to open up and accept what they're teaching us.
your disease can't take away my childhood, my love, your inspiration, how you treated us, how you acted, how you were a man of honor and integrity, how you showed up to every swim meet, every game, every event, how you treated my wife and my family and everybody's wife or granddaughter or niece or nephew or anybody I've ever met, any of my friends. One of the greatest compliments I've ever heard is that your dad was an incredible man, and
What I tell people in business when I meet them and when I talk to them is I say, I'm my dad's son, and I want to act, and I want to treat, and I want to be like him. And so I'm going to be a man of my word. I'm going to treat like a friend, like.
For this documentary, I'm asking each of the siblings what's one thing that they would ask Grandpa, and compiling all 7 of those questions or statements and interviewing him. I've told you about this. So what would you like to ask him?
I was able to sell that newspaper agency for enough to build this house. I was putting all the kids through school and that. Aunt Karen was in school down in Illinois. She had a scholarship there, but it still costs money.
My senior year, he sold the news agency. Unfortunately, he was unemployed. You know, once he got set up with ABM, you know, again, Dad started working hard. He was nice to people, and he started moving up the ranks. And as he was doing that, he was also doing the same thing at Cara, and both places were taking notice of Dad.
The Cara program was started about 25 years ago by a gentleman named Tom Owen, and Tom had worked in the computer industry as far as leasing computers to businesses, and he had been an early partner with IBM, ended up selling his company for $300 million, and at that point in time he was a gentleman who could just walk away and probably been happy, but he felt like he had a calling for more in life, and so he started around the world with Mother Teresa, doing different works in India and throughout the world, and you know, felt very satisfied by it, and came back to Chicago and thought, you know, I'm doing this in India, but there's need here at home. Trying to find jobs for people who are homeless or disabled or had a checkered past, and it's since grown into an organization that 25 years later has placed over, I think they said 5,000 people in jobs right here in Chicago. The Cara program had a special event for him, and that event took place in a church basement basically at the time, and there were lots of people who got up and they talked about him. You know, he was fortunate enough to receive later in life a similar Lifetime Achievement Award, but at that time I didn't really know the depths of things that he had done. And so for me, just seeing the pride that he had for doing kind of what I would consider the right thing, how he changed lots of different people's lives and having them come up there. And it's good to see a different side of your parent that you don't see, right? You see him as a parent, you see him at a party, you see them as your childhood kind of hero, but to see him, you know, celebrated by all different people in the community and how happy he was, I think is one of my favorite memories.
At Cara, that was really kind of, you know, the thing that my dad was really trying to do is say, look, you've got a group of people that are, you know, they've had it rough and they want to get back into it, and they, you know, they just haven't been given a chance in life. And I think that speaks a lot about my dad.
He just looked at people as people and thought that everybody deserved a second chance or a third chance or a fourth, right?
It's funny when you have a career, a lot of times you feel like you're making other people money or you're just kind of putting in time. He realized that, you know, he could really help an organization like Cara and feel like he was doing good in the world instead of, you know what I mean, maintaining a building or, you know, what he got from his career. Which I think he did like his career because there was that aspect for him who was well established. You know, maintaining a building's rewarding in a way, but it's not, you know what I mean, helping people start families or change their life or, you know what I mean, have an established career.
The timing was beautiful for him, so I think that really helped him, and he really helped that program. You know, one of the things that Dad did, you know, again, this is another like layer of the guy. So it's sometimes I forget some of these layers. Jeez. After Dad sold the agency, and you know, he was bouncing around from different jobs and doing different stuff, and some of them were kind of menial. His confidence struggled. I know he had probably bouts of depression or was bummed out back then, and I think one of the things that happened during that was as Dad had realized some of his hard times in work when he was successful and others were struggling. I think he could relate to some of that.
There you go. Sorry, there was a little bit of a big issue there.
Each and every one of you children have brought so much joy to our hearts. It's so nice to be able to be with you and to smile with you and to laugh with you. I can't tell you how much I've learned from you and all the things that you've taught your children. God bless, you know, all of us. And I ask you to just say some prayers for the Costello family.
It's so gratifying to see what good parents you are. And you're so willing to do what you do because of the love you have for your children. Well, that's been our whole life. We did all we could to make your lives better. I relish all the good times we had together as a young, wild, and energetic family. I thrived on it. Sometimes I wish I could go back and experience most of it all over again. Of course, that is impossible. Our lives change, and now Dad and I are on our own, just as we were when we started some 50 years ago. For both of us, our love for each of you is real and deep, and it has sustained us and given each of us purpose in our lives. Honestly, the love we have for each of you keeps us going through these difficult times. At Christmas and all these holidays, so many memories come to mind. Mostly at this time I feel an overflowing love for each of you, and I feel privileged to be your mom and your grandma. Always remember your roots. It's really important to me. You had great role models in your grandparents. Please don't forget them. Be humble and kind, but be proud of your heritage. It's what made you who you are. Please know our love is always there for you and your families. We love you. Amen.
Cheers. That should be a whole
I'm asking everybody that I interviewed. The last question is, what's one thing you would ask him or one thing you would tell him? Just a simple question or a simple statement.
What's one thing I would ask him?
What is your favorite thing about Grandpa?
I think my favorite thing about him is just, you know, how genuine he is. He has the ability to get other people to care about themselves more, or feel good about themselves, or love themselves more because he's so genuine. He's not fake. He's not superficial. You know, he doesn't suffer fools easily, and it's a pretty good trait to have. I don't know where he gets it. I think he's always had this ability to kind of sort things out and evaluate either people or, you know, his emotional intelligence is very high. He's just got that heart. He's got that caring heart for others. And
you know, probably the best thing about my dad is you really probably could say anything and he would just kind of take a second, analyze it, and then just give his answer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's only been a couple times where, you know what I mean, he's kind of stressed displeasure or knew that you're giving like a total BS answer to something he was asking, as almost every kid does, you know what I mean? Like where he knows you're not really answering correctly or telling the truth. And I think he was pretty good at getting around that to like the core of what he was asking, you know.
Do you have a story about when he could tell?
I might have to come back to that one. Let me think.
Okay. It's okay. We can.
Yeah,
come back.
no, let's come back.
Yeah.
I kind of gotta. I could tell this, but you could just not use it if you want. So I had one like kind of bad experience when I was in high school, and it was just a silly, innocent thing where after a party, me and two other guys went to a girl's house, and it was maybe like 11 o'clock, and the guy knocks on the door at the girl's house, and the dad answers, and he's mad. The dad's really mad, and he pushes the boy and then punches the boy, and the boy knocks down, and the boy's hurt. And we're 17, 18, whatever we were, 16, 17. I go home, or no, the dad calls, and I think the only name he knew was Costello. And so he calls up Jack and says, your son was a peeping Tom or some silly story, and he got punched. And it wasn't me, I didn't get punched, but so I think the next day Jack was like, Bill, you really got to apologize. And I think I said, I don't think I'm going to apologize, Dad. This man like punched my friend. Okay, so let me go back to that one. So I just say, this guy punched my friend, and I'm not going to apologize, And then I think Jack was like, just gave me a couple of reasons, and then was like, you don't have to apologize to him, you know what I mean? But it was just one of those silly things, but it was, as a kid, you felt it was very unjust, Mm.
His heart. He probably was the kindest person you would ever meet. As my mom might say sometimes, to a fault. He was generous with everything he had, with his family, with people he worked with needs he saw. He was always moved to act. He never just kind of thought about it. His kindness really was something he led with always. He saw people and he wanted to help.
He's a good man whose heart was always in the right place. So I think sometimes he would do it in ways that he wasn't happy with himself afterward, but he was always coming from the right place. And I would say above all, family was so important to him, because he always would say later on in life that the thing that he felt missing from his life as a child was that he always felt loved. And so he always wanted to make sure that he showed love to his family, to his wife, to all of his grandkids. And so I guess my favorite thing about him is that he was an example of those things. A lot of people talk about those things. A lot of people can give a great speech, but they don't live it every day. And I feel like he lived it every day, and I feel like he still lives that every day. For my dad, it was never a question of whether you were loved or whether he was doing things because of that. And I think that I try and take that every day. The other thing that I would say is, because he was so honest and because he came across from that spot, I think for most of the kids in our family, it was really, you wanted to make them proud. And so there's lots of times for myself in my everyday life where I think, am I making them proud? Am I doing the right things to make them proud? And so and I think that comes from a spot of somebody putting that out there, making sure that you know that you're loved and that they have expectations for you. And so for me, those things have been important in my life.
Really over the past maybe 10 years, I've called my dad every Thursday for the past 10 years. And he kind of knew the drill. He would go, okay, Johnny, you know, and really like the first 5 years of those 10 years was, man, I need some advice, you know, I'm struggling here, you know, some things are going down in my life that, man, I just need some help. And there was some good advice in there. There was some not so good advice. You know, the thing that's been really hard for me is over the past 2 years, those Thursday phone calls. They're not the same. You know, he's there, but he's not there. You know, I miss that. Everybody needs somebody to talk to, and you know, I mean, he's there. He's still my dad. I still love him, but it's not the same. You know, you can't really brag. You can't. All those things that, as a dad. Yeah, all the things as a dad you want to share. You want to be able to brag, and I think he listens, but I'm not sure how much he really remembers or understands. You know, prior to this, he was like, you know, he was always like, how's Jack doing? How's Grace doing? How's Leah doing? And I mean, those were the important things. You know, he always wanted to hear that stuff. You know, he would really never want to talk about himself. It was like, you know, how are they doing? And then every single phone call, up until recently, it would always end the same way. He would always say how much he loves me, how proud he is of me. So I know it's still there, but you know, I mean, that was pretty incredible. And as a son, to hear that every single week.
Now, when I used to buy stuff on Craigslist, I always get like that real thick baseball.
This is like that. This is gorgeous.
Michael can drive down there in cowboy.
Michael, you can drive down and be no. That's incredible.
This is my day. It's Irish stuff.
Here's to you. Sláinte.
1 minute. Alright, I'm done. Miles, I'm done loving him.
Seriously, so what can I get you? Can I get you a plate? I'll get you some.
No, I think it was on a retreat.
You want to do a speech?
Go to the retreat, so you know.
Or do you want to do grits?
Here's your Italian granddaughter.
I know you. I got my Miles, I'm done loving him. I got my
Jack, what are you doing?
Watching her.
Watching. All right, smile for the camera. Say something good. Say Aaron go bra.
Those glasses.
Aaron go bra.
Why? What does Aaron go bra mean?
I don't know because.
I don't know what it means either.
I know.
Why does Aaron have to have a bra?
What's your favorite sandwich?
I like it.
The Elvis Presley.
Yes, the Elvis Presley.
What is that?
Somebody told him that. I could kill that person. He has said that every day when I make it for him.
Banana and peanut butter.
But wait, he adds an extra bonus. He adds mayonnaise.
Yeah, that's what Elvis did.
Did he?
Yeah.
I taught him everything he knows.
Lights that I've done.
Yeah.
You taking it?
My friend Susan
Yeah,
gives
this is mine.
gives her dog
Okay.
the medicine. Yeah.
Nice. Who made that? Where'd that come from?
I think it's Jenna's.
Don't, Dad, that's Jenna's.
No, you can have it.
Jenna's gonna be upset.
Who's Jenna?
Now she's really gonna be upset.
How dare she? How dare she? Let's get the H out of here. It's worse by. Come on.
Oh, I'm ready.
Don't squeeze the Charmin when you get in the car.
How about squeezing her?
Oh, you're so funny.
Anything else you want to say?
Thank you. Well, no, thank you. Very nice.
Come on.
Well, Roseanne, there's people who...
There's people.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about here.
Watch out for these people.
There's all these people in the way. Jack, pay attention.
Oh God.
That step seems
Go.
big.
Go ahead. You're not
Watch on that last step.
Okay.
For this film, I am asking each of the siblings to ask one question to Grandpa, and then that will consist of his interview that I'm going to do with him.
Okay.
So, if you had one question to ask him, what would it be? And you can take your time, like you don't have to answer immediately.
This was the level of importance thing growing up. It was family, God, sports, and maybe school was there at the end. And that was really instilled in us at a very, very young age.
You know, faith was a big value for him. Community was a big value for him. Family, of course, was paramount for him.
Family, yes, absolutely. I think that's his mooring point, and I think it's his North Star. I don't see family ever falling off that list. I think it is the thing that you hear him say over and over again. It's probably going to be, his love for his family, his pride in his family, and his love for my mom are going to be, the last words that he's able to sort of pull out of his brain, I think.
Ultimately, I think work was one of those traits that he instilled and my mom instilled in us. The value of work for providing, the value of work for affecting others, the value of work for valuing yourself. I think were all things that he put out there. And somebody who, like I said, had to struggle for his whole life to support a family and to do it running a business and doing it on a business where you get up at 2 a.m. and work all night.
He didn't socialize a ton. One, because of his hours, I think, and two, because, I think he was very family-centered and was focused on that. I mean, I think my parents had their hands full when they were young. I think Mom was 30 by the time she had 7 kids, so...
He always made it clear to us, in a good way, that my mom was the love of his life. So he always put her first. As the disease has kind of changed a little bit of how he interacts with us, she's still first. But I think that's a great example for people. He never wavered really from that fact that that's the love of his life and somebody that he put first.
My dad definitely, you can tell that he's so devoted to my mom. Just the way that he looks at her, and you know, she has that same affection towards him.
You know, he definitely loved Mom, and you know, he still does. And it's crazy. Sorry.
It's okay.
I could say it, but is I've never seen somebody crazier about somebody else than he is about Mom. It's pretty special. So yeah, Mom's up there too. Anyway, sorry about that. Yeah. She's pretty lucky.
There's an old Irish tune
What is it? Look at
that says, when Irish eyes are smiling, the whole world smiles too.
Johnny.
I have the whole world in my hands in this house.
I
Thank you.
Here's to Dad.
There's a tear in your eye, and I'm wondering why, for it never should be there at all. With such power in your smile, sure as stone you'd beguile, so there's never a teardrop should fall. When your sweet little laughter's like some fairy song, and your eyes twinkle bright as can be, you should laugh all the while, and all other times smile, and now smile a smile for me. When Irish eyes are smiling, sure it's like a morning spring. In the lilt of Irish laughter, you can hear the angels sing. When Irish hearts are happy, all the world seems bright and gay. And when Irish eyes are smiling, sure they steal your heart away.
Some people are predicting the Bears to go to the Super Bowl. We'll see. A lot of unhappy people quitting. So it's
have a question for him. It could even be a statement. So you can do whatever you want, but just
Okay.
something you'd like for him to answer or say or.
Yeah, so that's
So I think I would say, you know, I'd want him to know how much he's loved. I think he knows that, but I think he also has never felt really confident in being loved as you are, you know, from his upbringing all the way through. So I'd want him to know he's so loved exactly for who he is, you know, not with a call to change. And then I feel like the other piece is, I think I want him to know you've been a good dad, you know, you've been a good dad. I think when we have in our heads a vision of what we should be doing and we know we just can't, or what we want to do and we just, you know, don't have the resources, I think it'd be pretty easy for my dad to look around and say, I was not able to do for my kids what other people have done. Or I wish I had done certain things sooner in my life. I'd made changes. I found faith, things like that. But I think it all works together. And I would want him to know with what you had and with your heart, you know, if the things that remain with me are that I am loved and that I have skills and strengths that were built out of being a part of a family that was for each other. I mean, I think that's a success.
You know, I think for me and for like future generations, I really want to get on film Grandpa telling some of the stories, you know, and if he still remembers it, to hear him say it would be pretty amazing. The other thing that I really think that would be pretty amazing is to have my mom and my dad together answering questions. And it may be rough because she may want to talk over him or vice versa, but that was pretty much our like childhood. I mean, that's how things got done. She would finish sentences for him, and you know, he would say things and she would have to correct them. But just the way that he would tell stories of like, you know, like when he met my mom and how he met my mom, and from his perspective, you know, how much he just loved her, you know, and then stories of like my grandfather and my grandmother, and you know, him almost throwing the ring down the sewer, you know, and then obviously moments that, you know, that are pretty cool that every parent goes through. Like, you know, do you remember when Karen was born? Do you remember when Johnny was born? Do you remember when the other kids were born? What happened? You know, what were you thinking? You know, were you overwhelmed? Was it just, you know, endless love that you found? And then, so I think those things he'll remember. Some of the other stuff I'm not sure, because he's starting to jumble those thoughts together.
If you wish somehow you could have balanced your life, you know what I mean, a little bit more for him, where, you know what I mean, he was very into sports and coaching, but he didn't really get to coach or, you know what I mean, pursue his sports, stuff like that, you know what I mean, where I think in retrospect, you know, I mean, there's a pretty short window in your life to do some of that stuff too, you know. I'd probably say just thank you. I mean, I realize 7 kids must have been overwhelming, you know what I mean. I think he did a good job keeping the chaos in order. He did have to sacrifice a lot of hard work, probably a lot of thankless work where no one realized what you're doing. And I think it's good he got us all to where we're at now. It's always funny because I feel like sometimes my mom will be.
I guess the first part would be, have I made you proud? as a father, because that's important to me. And then, you know, I guess the biggest thing would be, you know, how would you like your legacy defined? Because I think all the questions that were being asked are for people to define your legacy for you. And, you know, I guess most importantly would be, how do you want your legacy defined? How would you like people to think about you? You know, I think that we're all very, very proud that you're our dad or our grandfather or our friend. But if you could define what you want to be remembered for your legacy, you know, I think that's what I'd like to know.
I wish I could do it all over again. And thanks for being such a great dad, friend, mentor, husband, father-in-law, grandpa, uncle, boss. You know, I was thanking him for all those things and just tell him I love him. And I think he knows. So I think that's what I would say to him. Question I would ask him is, will you come see me when I can't see you? That's it. I think that's pretty good.
Today is a Thanksgiving we're not going to forget. Trust me, we will not forget today.
There's some girl named Natalie somewhere.
Oh, really? Where? Turkey bowl.
Yeah, Grandpa's already been doing the chant. He got excited. He keeps crying every time he sees all the kids. He's crying again.
Oh no.
All these kids are here. The adults too? Yes.
Wow.
Oh yeah, Dylan number one.
Ellie, are you
Liam, that's a good pick. It sounds like you're an Irish bar with all these names.
It's too far to go. Oh, my boy
rolled it right up.
Well, every day I've got a wheelchair that I have to...
Do you like it?
Well, I'm doing it for everybody. When we are married, how happy we'll be. For I love Roseanne O'Mana. Roseanne O'Mana loves me. Boom, boom.
Woo!
I sing all the time because I'm with the singer.
Yeah. Think that affects how much you sing?
All right.
Are you happy?
That's all right. Let him.
I'm happy and I know it, and I have the right to show it.
Wait, Aaron, get in. Wait, we got to get in. Come on. Yeah, that. Oh, I like that. Liam, you're in, honey.
That's around.
At the twilight's last gleaming, blues by stripes and bright stars, through the perilous
Feet up, Dad. Feet up.
I think it's hard.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19,
You see 18
20.
people.
I see 20 of them.
Wow. That's a lot of people.
It is. I believe with my heart that family is one of the most important things in your life. Whether it's a baby that you have born, you want to have somebody to take care of that baby at all times. And that's just this little girl pushing the thing.
That's how I feel about you.
I worked for a company and all the men have to have the ones, and they put your name on it, and you're pushing those around, and it doesn't do the other kids any good, but they're just trying to get people to work harder. And the kids are still playing, so it's working. They don't want to stop, even if they're cold. We're bringing something that most people wish they had. A feeling of love and care that we're sharing with each other.
Carrie, would you ask my mom if she has another Depends? Okay. Do you have another?
I don't get as much time. No, we're getting together as a family, and we're sharing things that you just can't buy. I love it.
Grandpa's telling me that they let him take a day off of work.
Oh, good thing. It's a holiday.
I do want to talk about something, and that's the idea of traditions. I think most people in the room know this, that we've been playing the Turkey Bowl for 45 years.
Grace, watch them.
And it really all started with my mom saying, just get the hell out of the kitchen. But it's turned into this thing. It's turned into this thing.
Yes, right. Milling is right.
Where everybody enjoys it. And I think it's not the football game. It's getting everybody together. Sorry. And as my dad says, it's about family.
Your heart feels it, John.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, see my dad's face, when we talk about the Turkey Bowl, and how he knows everybody in the room is going to be there, and the love that we have for everybody. It really is something special. Families are not like this. We really do love each other. We really love being with each other. I love that the tradition is playing the football, but it really is being with each other and showing love and gratitude. So to today, and 5 years from now, we're still playing the Turkey Bowl. Thank you.
50.
Everybody can sing along.
different song. Where are you going?
Lean on me.
He's fine.
He's singing it.
He's fine. I got him. I have him.
I would give anything.
I have.
That's enough for tonight. It's overdone. Sit down.
Watch the whistle.
Everything I
When you turn around, give me your other arm.
own. Back again.
I have a theory about people as they age. And I think some of it is, you know, we can see it in my dad. I feel like the very core of who they are accentuates as they get older. And so people tend to go one of two ways. They either get grouchier and more bitter, or they get more open and loving and grateful. And so I see in my dad just gratefulness. Like the very essence of who he is right now is just gratefulness. And I think it is coming out of that place of, you know, when you say, who is he? Who is Jack Costello? I think he just always has had this kind of openness to, I'm not going to demand anything out of life. I'm not going to expect anything out of life. I'm grateful to be here, grateful to be able to help another. And some of that, I think, comes from his place in his family. Some of it comes from his upbringing and, you know, being in another big, chaotic Irish Catholic family. But I really think who he is at his essence is just a very grateful, kind-hearted man.
I only want it if it's really cold.
That keeps stuff cold.
Yes.
It's like a refrigerator in there.
Yeah, because you feel like you're all ugly.
Where does it get the power?
I feel like it brings from a mountain stream.
Yeah,
That was her
looking really
That was her
ugly.
main Christmas act.
Should explain it all to Sarah.
That's what you wanted? That's
Yeah. What is it?
We bonded
I
tonight.
see you and me at the same time.
Both of us together.
Great, Dad. Love you.
I love you too. Thank you. I love all of you guys.